My name is Richard Medhurst. I am in Vienna covering the Iran nuclear deal independently on the ground. And you should not be listening to anything the mainstream media have to say about this, because once again, not only are they not here, but they're also giving you this skewed perspective on what is actually happening with the negotiations. I've been covering this for 2 years now, almost 2 years, and I've interviewed the Iranians, I've interviewed the Russians, and I've got everything to do with the Iran nuclear deal right here in a playlist on the channel that you can check out if you actually want to understand what is happening over here. Right now, they're saying that they're closer than ever to signing the nuclear deal. And, you know, one of these headlines that I've been seeing in the press is something like this, right? In Politico, they say, for example, Iran drops, quote-unquote, red line IRGC demand for nuclear deal. Okay, so again, what is IRGC? IRGC means the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And that is a part of the Iranian armed forces. Okay, it's one of the most prestigious and elite. It's the most prestigious and elite unit that they have, or should I say branch that they have. And the United States put that on a terror list. And this is weird because it's the first time in history that I can think of where the United States puts the branch of another country's armed forces on a terrorism list. Trump did this, of course, to please the Israelis, to please the hardliners in the United States. They love using that term, right? And he pulled out of the nuclear deal entirely. In response to that, back then, Iran placed United States Central Command on their terrorism list. You know, tit for tat. And right now, what is going on? They're saying that Iran doesn't care anymore about the United States removing the IRGC from their terrorism list. And, now we can finally, get to actually signing the deal. Now, this is very incorrect and very, very skewed. And I think they're saying this on purpose to try and sell the deal at home, right? To make it look like, Iran was the one that was really, huffing and puffing and standing in the way and not letting us proceed and get down to business. No. They were the ones in the way with their red line at IRGC. No. Iran certainly wants the IRGC removed from the list, but it wasn't a prerequisite, right? I never heard this. That removing the IRGC is a prerequisite for getting back in the deal. And I want to be very clear. Iran is in the deal. Nothing changed except the United States leaving the deal. Okay? Let's say but Iran breached all the limits in the deal. Yeah, once again, it's allowed to do that under the deal. If you actually read the fucking thing, you would know that. And another thing that comes to mind why Iran wants the IRGC removed from the list is because when you're sanctioning, military officials, you're sanctioning people for just joining the army and being in this unit, then obviously this goes against the nuclear deal. So this is under Section 33 in the nuclear deal. They say that the EU and the E3 and Iran will agree on steps to ensure Iran's access in areas of trade, technology, finance, and energy. The EU will further explore possible areas for cooperation between the EU, its member states, and Iran, and in this context, consider the use of available instruments such as export credits to facilitate trade, project financing, and investment in Iran. And over and over and over in the deal, they always talk about facilitating economic trade and other sectors for Iran, right? Facilitating access to those sectors. This is very important. And when you're sanctioning an entire branch of Iran's military, well, obviously that goes against the deal. I don't think this is correct. I think it's very skewed for, CNN and all these outlets to say that Iran dropped this key red line demand. The thing is, the Americans, they got humiliated in Afghanistan. That was a huge flop for Biden. Right now, all these, Biden huffing and puffing his chest saying, we're going to crush Russia's economy. That's backfiring. It's Americans now who have to pay more for food. They have to pay more for gas. The sanctions are hitting the West. And this is something, the Iran deal is something that Biden needs, to work, and he needs it to look good. You understand? especially with the midterms coming up. But I mean, I'm speaking more generally. He needs something to succeed. And obviously, you have people that oppose the deal in the U.S., the United States rejoining it. That would be a success. And what they're doing is they're trying to, soften the blow and sell this to the American people and Westerners as, it's Iran that's like getting out of the way now, and Iran dropping this red line, and now we can proceed, and we can finally get down to business. I want to show you this clip. Okay, so this is from Borrell, right? He's the EU's representative for foreign affairs, and of course the EU is a party to the Iran nuclear deal. So what he says is very important, because the Europeans this time around are actually the ones that are mediating between Iran and the United States. They refuse to negotiate directly for all the reasons that we've outlined before, and so the Europeans are the ones mediating. And I want to show you what he's saying. Okay, take a look. This is from just a few days ago. This is August 23rd.
Is it possible to make the agreement, the JCPOA, which is a name for the nuclear agreement, is something we can be able to bring in the right path? The situation is the following, and I can explain it because it's no secret. There's was a proposal as coordinator of the negotiations, saying we've reached this point. This is the balance that I believe we can achieve. I don't believe we can make it better for one side or the other. I communicated this to those participating in the negotiation, that is the US and Iran, but also others like the British, French, Chinese, and the Russians. There was a response from Iran that I considered reasonable. This was transmitted to the US.
Right, so that's the key sentence that you've seen repeated, in a lot of places, that Iran has issued a reasonable response. So, basically the Iranians looked at the draft proposed by the EU, and they're okay with it. If the EU, so it's not Iran saying this is Borrell saying this, that the Iranians are being reasonable. How does that, how do you reconcile that with the narrative in the media that, Iran finally dropped this red line? He's not saying any of that. I'm going to show you, this is Ned Price. He's the spokesperson for the State Department. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
The president has been clear. He's been firm. He's been consistent that he will not lift the terrorism designation on the IRGC. Iran's demand that we do so has been removed from the latest version of the text that we have seen. And that's part of the reason why a deal is closer now than it was 2 weeks ago. But the outcome of these ongoing discussions still remains uncertain, as gaps do remain.
Let's be clear. Iran saying, hey, can you please remove the IRGC from the list? Is not the same as Iran saying, you better remove the IRGC from that list or there's no deal. Those are two completely different things. Here's Lapid, the Israeli prime minister or caretaker.
We have made it clear to everyone, if a deal is signed, it does not obligate Israel. We will act to prevent Iran from becoming a nuclear state.
God. What does that even mean? The deal is geared towards that. The whole point, well, not the whole point. There's one benefit for the Iranians is no sanctions, and the perceived benefit for the West is Iran does not. The breakout time is increased, and Iran cannot develop a nuclear weapon. So what are you talking about? They make no sense.
This money will not build schools or hospitals. This is $100 billion a year that will be used to undermine stability in the Middle East and spread terror around the globe.
Wow. That is amazing. All right. Wow. I don't even know what to say. I'm I'm just stunned. I'm just stunned. To spread terror around the globe. What does that even mean? Like he's trying to make it so like such a big deal. This is literally just the Israelis, towing the same line. They say something that makes no sense. Oh, this nuclear deal, which stops Iran from being able to develop a nuclear weapon if it wanted to, is going to give them a nuclear weapon. What? And then say the money. Keep in mind, they're saying that he said this money is not going to be used to build schools or whatever. That money literally belongs to Iran. No one is giving them money. It's just giving back stuff that was taken from them. I think one of the worst things that I've seen about the Iran deal is a clip that I'm about to play you. And the stupidity in this is so bewildering. I apologize in advance for making you sit through this.
The Iran nuclear deal seems to be back on the table. The Obama administration crafted this deal and sent pallets of cash to Iran. And
again, that is their own money. That is Iran's money.
Paid obeisance to Iran after they captured our sailors and set them on the path to getting a nuclear.
They captured our sailors. Dude, like, I don't understand this. The Americans go into Iran's waters and then they don't understand why Iran captures sailors that are entering Iran. Like, what does that even mean? If Iranians were coming to the United States, wouldn't the Coast Guard capture them too? What does this even mean? What does this have to do with a nuclear deal? The stupidity.
Weapon, all of which was very, very bad. And then Obama leaves, Trump comes in, and the Republicans and Trump tear up the Iran nuclear deal. Now Biden seems to be reviving it, although the details are a little bit unclear. I know you've been very, very involved in this.
Yeah, they're unclear. The details are unclear because you're talking out of your ass and you have no clue what you're discussing. Christ.
Issue. What do we need to know?
Look, Biden is desperate to announce an Iran deal, and he doesn't care what the substance is. He is willing to give the Ayatollah, I think, literally anything the Ayatollah wants.
Really? Even Palestine? Are you sure about that?
It is a political mission for Biden and the White House. And to say it is indefensible, it was a year ago that Biden surrendered to the Taliban in Afghanistan. Biden is right now trying to give Iran and the Ayatollah nuclear weapons. That is the effect of the deal.
What are you saying? Dude, it's in the name. It's the nuclear deal stops Iran from being able to build a nuclear weapon. And yet you are saying that this is giving Iran a nuclear weapon? What the fuck is wrong with you? How can you be this dumb? I don't know what to say, man. Iran, under this nuclear deal, literally has nuclear scientists from the IAEA that can come in anytime they like and sweep nuclear facilities. They have cameras 24/7. They have special seals. They count the grams of fissile material, literally down to the gram. And this guy's saying, oh yeah, they're going to build a nuclear weapon. How? When did they do that? When there was a nuclear deal, when the United States, and everybody, they signed it 2015 and 2016, you had Iran complying 100%. Even the nuclear watchdog of the United Nations, the IAEA, said that, okay? And I've pulled it up I pulled up the statement for you a million times. The International Atomic Energy Agency, that's the UN's nuclear watchdog, the one that is tasked with actually monitoring and verifying that Iran cannot exceed 3.67% of uranium enrichment, is the one that checks all of these facilities. And they said there's no problem. And Ted Cruz is sitting here saying, oh, they're going to build a bomb. Based on what? Based on what? Please give me the evidence. Give me the evidence and I will sing it from the rooftops, but they don't have any, and he's talking out of his butthole.
They are negotiating is to make it inevitable that Iran has nuclear weapons. And let's be clear.
Oh my God.
The Ayatollah leads chance of death to America and death to Israel with thousands of people. In fact, every year they celebrate in Iran what they call Death to America Day. And that is, it is the anniversary of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard taking American hostages in 1979 in Iran. And that is...
Look, man, look. I'm not saying it's okay to take anyone hostage. I just want to be clear on something. You know, when we, meaning the UK and the US, plunder Iran's oil and literally plot a coup to remove its prime minister and install a puppet king, then obviously they're gonna be very fucking angry at this and at us. You understand? What do you expect? I mean, like, imagine Iran ousted the president of the United States and installed a puppet and stole America's resources for decades. What the fuck do you think people in America would say about Iran? Man.
It is, in effect, a national holiday where they celebrate it in Iran every day. Right now, today, the current Ayatollah, Khamenei, is actively trying to murder the former Secretary of State of the United States, Mike Pompeo, the former National Security Advisor in the White House, John Bolton, and another State Department official, Brian Hook. All three.
Yeah. As you guys know, Iran has so much money that it has nothing better to do than to go and assassinate U.S. officials while trying to negotiate a deal with U.S. officials. You know, this is stuff that only makes sense in Hollywood, and even then you would watch this and think, what is this crap? Right? What is this crap? And by the way, I want to highlight something. When he says taking hostages, he's talking about in 79. That was not that's not something that people celebrate. They're celebrating their independence from UK and US puppet rule, and they unequivocally support Palestine because that's been a pillar of the Islamic Revolution. These are some of the reasons why they hate Iran, because they can't take its oil anymore. It also has a lot of gas. They can't have a so-called policeman in the Middle East. Because remember, Iran was the top customer of U.S. weapons at that time. They don't have a country that they can tame. Now, instead, Iran supports Palestine. So this is bad for Israel. Many reasons, man. And at the end of the day, none of this has anything to do with the nuclear deal. This is, unbelievable. Like, they take you off into some completely ridiculous discussion. Here's Netanyahu. Sorry, I apologize for showing you these idiots.
Could you tell me what your greatest concern is at this hour?
I think this is a horrible deal, a dangerous deal that will pave Iran's path with gold, a golden paved highway to a nuclear arsenal. If Iran has nuclear weapons, they don't merely threaten my country, Israel, or the entire Middle East and America's allies. They threaten you directly, because simultaneously with developing nuclear weapons, they're developing the means to deliver them across continents. So you could have in Iran, governed by these fanatic ayatollahs, who will hold every American city hostage to nuclear weapons. I think this is a threat to the peace of the world, and that's what this horrible deal facilitates. It's even worse than the first one.
You guys know Israel actually has nuclear weapons. Israel is the one that has nuclear weapons, and they want to be the only ones with nuclear weapons. And when he talks about they're developing the means to deliver them, he's talking about Iran's ballistic missiles. Yeah, Iran has very, very capable ballistic and cruise missiles, which they have developed even under sanctions. It's Israel that has nuclear weapons. It's Israel that is occupying Syria. It's Israel that occupied Lebanon. It's Israel that is occupying Palestine. It is Israel that has built nuclear weapons illegally and has an undeclared nuclear arsenal. And the guy, one of their scientists who told the truth about and revealed the existence of this arsenal, they lured him and kidnapped him and basically put him in jail for a few decades. They punished him really, really badly for that. literally no one threatens the Middle East more than Israel. I mean, it's competition with the United States and the UK, but still. Let's be honest, man. Come on. You can't put nuclear weapons in Palestine and then complain that the Iranians want nuclear weapons. Why do you have them? And by the way, Iran doesn't even want nuclear weapons. Like, where is the proof that they're building them? If they were building them, it would be so obvious, because it would be, Iran is like one of the first countries where you would be able to detect that they are building them. And right now they have 60% enriched uranium, right? And people say, well, 60% is very close to 90%. And when you have 90%, that's weapons grade uranium. You still need many kilos. You need a very precise amount just to build one bomb. Okay? So if you have 1 gram of 90% enriched uranium, that's useless. Okay? And then he's talking about they're developing the means to deliver them. Yeah, Iran has ballistic missiles. It's not enough. That's not enough. You have other things that you need to do. And by the way, I have a whole interview with Scott Ritter on this channel where he talks about how to build a nuclear bomb, basically. So if you're interested in how to build a nuclear bomb, just go watch that video on the channel. When Trump left the nuclear deal in May 2018, for an entire year, until May 2019, the Iranians literally did nothing different. They continued to apply the deal like nothing had happened. Okay? And after that, you had several events which the Iranians, which prompted the Iranians to raise the limits of their nuclear program. So, for example, the Americans assassinated General Soleimani. They assassinated Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, who's a nuclear scientist. That was the Israelis, the Mossad. They also bombed several of Iran's nuclear facilities, I think in Karaj and in Natanz. And they even, like, look how crazy this is. The Israelis even destroyed one of the IAEA cameras that is being used to observe Iran. So, who's the one that's not complying? Who's the one that's being aggressive? Who is the one that is being dishonest? Iran has the right and will treat the United States' refusal to lift sanctions as grounds to cease performing its obligations. So in very, very plain terms, if the United States does not apply the deal, Iran doesn't have to apply its end of the deal. That makes sense. Like, if you sign a contract with someone and that person rips up the contract, why should you be expected to abide by this contract? That doesn't make any sense. And nevertheless, Iran is still there, and Iran needs to scale back its program if they sign the deal. But again, I think these people are absolutely insane. Like Ted Cruz and Netanyahu. I just don't know what they're talking about. I don't know what they're talking about. What is this nuclear program? Weapons, right? Remember, there's a difference between a nuclear program and a nuclear weapons program. What is this nuclear weapons program that they have? Why hasn't China said anything? Why hasn't Russia said anything? Why hasn't the EU said anything if this is true? Why is the United States negotiating with them if this is true? It's not true. Israel just wants to keep Iran isolated. You understand? That's a very important point to understand. The nuclear deal is not so much about blocking Iran from building a bomb. It's more about lifting sanctions. If sanctions are lifted, Iran is allowed to participate in the global economy. Iran is not treated as a pariah anymore. And Israel doesn't want that. Israel wants Iran to be isolated. That's why they don't like the nuclear deal. Iran has the right to a nuclear program because it signed the NPT, so the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Okay, so as long as it's a program that is, that is basically following the IAEA protocols and the NPT, that's it. You don't need to have anything extra. This is really about the United States and Israel trying to quote unquote contain Iran. But again, they do one thing, they say one thing, then they do another. Even in 2015, they didn't follow that deal. I don't know, man. Honestly, guys, please tell me in the comments. I'm really interested. Like, what would you guys do? Because if you sign the Iran nuclear deal, the sanctions are lifted, that means you can sell oil on the global market. Man, you're going to rake in literally millions every day. And there's all this natural gas. Iran is number 2 in terms of proven natural gas reserves. It's Russia and then Iran. And right now, Europe wants that gas. At the same time, however, you have one of the most advanced nuclear programs in the world. Extremely, extremely intelligent scientists. You're at 60% uranium. Again, 90% is not too far. And even if you get to 90%, you need to produce enough of it. And then even if you have that, you need to work on the delivery method to make it actually usable. Which one do you go with? Because some people would argue that you must have the nuclear deterrent. Look at North Korea. You know, the only reason that there still is a North Korea is because they have those nukes. And the US, well, it's not the only reason, but it's one of the biggest reasons that, you know, they have not been completely annihilated. And given the Syria treatment or the Libya treatment, as Professor Marandi, succinctly and accurately pointed to, how the West, they come in and they destroy countries and take the resources. I mean, what do you do? What do you do? Keep in mind, Iran is a country that has been exploited and shat on and plundered by the British and the Americans. That is a fact. That is a fact. I'm curious to hear what you guys would do in the comments. I'm very curious to hear what you would do.